Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Greetings and salutations, and a big warm welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. So today I've invited Rachel Berry of EG Innovations and Richard Faulkner from Conversant Group. I've invited them both onto the podcast to share their insights, their experiences, and a few topics that I hope we're going to be discussing today is the importance of performance monitoring for Citrix deployments, where EG Innovations adds value to Citrix customers, and how it relates to Citrix built-in tools. And I also want to learn more about what the Conversant Group do and how they work with EG Innovations too, and what changes they have seen with regards Citrix customers' needs, especially around monitoring in the last 12 months and beyond. But enough scene setting from me. It's time to get Rachel and Richard onto the podcast right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, my name's Rachel Berry. I now work at EG Innovations on the product team, looking at both how we formulate the product and how we communicate about the product and explain the features to users and potential customers. In the past, I have actually worked as a software engineer in 3D and graphic software in the CAD industry. And after that, I moved into product management, working on cloud technologies at Citrix, but also hardware technologies at NVIDIA and ARM.
And my name is Richard Faulkner. I'm a enterprise solutions architect at Conversant Group. Most of my time has been spent working for resellers and cooperating with customers, helping design the best solutions for them for given problems that they're occurring. I have had a long history in the end user computing environments and virtualization. With quite a bit of experience enabling large customers to do things like virtual desktop infrastructure or published applications or just plain server virtualization.
Well, a huge warm welcome to both of you. There's a lot I want to talk about today. But to begin with, Rachel, as someone who previously worked at Citrix, can you share your journey and how working on both sides of the fence has helped you and the kind of problems that you're solving today for your customers at EG Innovations?
I think one of the things that shaped my journey through Citrix was that I came from an application background. So I'd been working on the development of highly sensitive CAD applications, such as ANSYS, SolidWorks, Autodesk, those kind of products, where they're incredibly demanding applications in terms of both resources and how demanding the end users are. They're very expensive pieces of software, and the end users have very, very high expectations on response. So then moving from a very application and user-focused industry into a platform company like Citrix, I found a niche in that I understood a certain type of application very well. And actually, those kind of applications behaved quite differently on cloud. When I first went to Citrix, virtualized GPUs and GPUs in the data center just weren't, there was a little bit of pass-through going on. And actually, so one of the first projects I did at Citrix was working on developing the first virtualized GPU jointly with NVIDIA and what was then the Citrix Zen server team. I think having worked at Citrix itself, and then moving to a vendor who works with lots of platform companies at EG, it does make it easier to communicate back to Citrix when you've got an understanding of how all the different support networks and the ecosystems and how the customers actually think. And you appreciate as a third party, we add complementary value to Citrix. So we cover functionality which wouldn't be Citrix's natural remit. For example, we monitor SAP and enterprise applications such as O365, which Citrix produce monitoring products for their own tools, but we go beyond that and actually into the application stack, and even in web fleets into the application code.
I love the journey that you've been on here when you put it all together and how it's giving you that overall view of life on both sides of the fence. I think that's so valuable. And Richard, for people that are be tuning in and hearing about Conversant for the very first time, can you expand on the kind of problems that you solve for your customers?
Certainly. Conversant Group has been around in fact, we just celebrated our 12th birthday. So we've been around for about 12 years, working with customers and enabling them to achieve things that 12 years ago weren't possible. When you look at the ability to do remote work, when you look at the ability to work safely, one of our main focuses is in security and making sure that whatever the customer is working on and however they're going, they do it in a secure fashion, so that they don't have to worry about data exfiltration or problems or somebody coming in and doing things that they shouldn't. We do quite a bit of work in the legal field. In fact, about 75% of our customers are law firms. And our owner likes to say, if we can keep lawyers happy, we can keep anybody happy. But I guess our main goal is to make sure that in the future, when the customer looks back on their relationship and working with Conversant Group, that they feel that their company or their firm or their organization is better off because they had a relationship with us. That is what our intention is, to make sure that our customers are doing the very best that they can with what they have.
And if we zoom out just for a moment, both e.g. Innovations and Conversant are Citrix partners, of course. So to begin with, Rachel, from your point of view, how important is performance monitoring for Citrix deployments, would you say?
Well, I think every system administrator is going to say performance monitoring is important. But it's more about, I think a lot of people are traditional monitoring mentality. Think about monitoring of infrastructure and how much CPU am I using? Is my network performing? But actually, Citrix is about end user computing. And what we really need to focus on is we're not monitoring Citrix, we're monitoring the end user experience. It's for the end user, they want access to the applications they need to do their job on the devices they want to use. So that could be tablets, it could be working from home on their own laptop, and they want the application they need to do their specific job available and also performant, because frustrated end users aren't happy employees. So yes, monitoring is vitally important, but it's not about, is my hypervisor running? It's actually, is that whole end-to-end infrastructure delivering a good user experience that's actually usable for people to work with?
I think that's such a great point you made there, and how that traditional form of monitoring has evolved. And right now, you bang on there. It is all about the end user experience. And Richard, is there anything you can expand on there around monitoring for Citrix deployments?
Certainly, I can tell you from my years of experience that the worst thing that can happen to an end user environment, end user computing environment, is for the end users to have a bad experience. I have been able to witness the revolt that occurs when the experience is horrible for the end users, and it's almost insurmountable to get that project back on track if it's not set up correctly and not performing correctly. So I always encourage my customers to ensure that they have not only the hardware and the capabilities on the back end, but that they understand what the users are seeing, how they see it, and know that the users are getting the experience that they have, because nobody wants to buy a Ferrari and get Yugo performance, right? They want to get that feeling of driving that Ferrari. So we want to make sure that, when we design our infrastructures, we make sure, and the monitoring falls in with this, I've actually had users get up from a PC and move to a terminal because the experience was better on the terminal than it was on the PC. And that's our goal. And you need tools like monitoring and reporting tools like EG that will show you what kind of performance they're getting and how that user experience is going on, because the user is just going to tell you, yeah, I don't like this, but it doesn't really tell you why or what's causing their problem or how they're having that experience. A tool like EG Innovations gives you that ability to narrow that down. Why am I having this problem? Where is this coming from? And what do I need to do to fix it so that I can make sure that my end users are happy with what they're doing?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it almost feels like there's a bit of a change in expectation from users now as well, whereas if you're reacting to a support ticket that's just been logged, you're already too late. The idea is to try and fix it before it even reaches that end user experience. And just to understand where everybody fits here, Rachel, where does EG Innovations add value to Citrix consumers, and how does it relate to those Citrix built-in tools?
Well, EG is a single product, which makes it quite unusual. And we're also built around an AI ops platform that uses machine learning and statistical analysis to actually correlate events within the entire infrastructure. So an application may be slow or unavailable, but that could be because a file server is unavailable or there's a problem on a network switch. And that could be impacting hundreds of Citrix users. So whilst you might, in a traditional monitoring sense, be seeing hundreds of user alerts associated with bad latency or application performance for all those users, actually the root cause could be in your networking stack, or it could be something to do with an application server not being available to deliver the application, which is nothing to do with your Citrix infrastructure. And so that's the kind of environment we go beyond Citrix. So people might have third-party load balancers that could be causing problems. We also have users might be using Citrix to deliver their VDI infrastructure, but they may well also be delivering an awful lot of microservices, customer-facing apps. That's particularly common in finance and retail. So people have Java programs that are providing services and applications. So that's one place you see it. We also see a lot of customers who use lots of different Citrix components. So we monitor products such as NetScaler, which is now called ADC, and all of the other bits like the Active Directory. And a lot of Citrix customers, of course, will be familiar with Citrix Director. And there are a lot of additional features we can offer beyond Director. Director doesn't provide the same kind of range of synthetic monitoring options, which are robot users. So a sysadmin can run these robot users constantly throughout the day. We can do log on and full session simulation. So we can have these robot users at 6 a.m. in the morning, doing a full client log on, trying to log in. Perhaps they'll open an application like Salesforce, they'll update a customer record, then try to save it. And this will test all the kind of infrastructure behind it, whatever kind of SQL server that application requires on the databases. And so if there's a problem at 6 a.m., that can proactively allow a sysadmin to sort it out before the main bulk of users come online at maybe 8 or 9 in the morning. That's actually a very common workflow in healthcare settings. Also, Citrix Director focuses, of course, on the Citrix session metrics, whereas we also collect signals and metrics from the other Citrix infrastructure, such as Storefront, WEM, PVS, app layering, and of course the ADCs and NetScalers, which are incredibly, particularly NetScaler is incredibly important in the context of Citrix delivery if it's in place. And of course, there's always a lot of infrastructure supporting a Citrix deployment. You might have Microsoft IIS servers in place. You might have an F5 load balancer. You've probably got some databases. That could be Oracle. And of course, all of those are outside the scope of the Citrix product-specific tools.
And I think that proactive approach shows just how far we've come, especially from back when I was in the corporate IT days, and that traditional reactive approach. Everyone's firefighting instead of focusing on value-add activity. So it's great to see how far we've come there. And Richard, what changes have you seen in regards to Citrix customer needs regarding monitoring, particularly in the last year?
So Obviously, I think everybody can accept that the pandemic has caused a lot of focus on how to work remotely and enabling our workers to work remotely. And I think it kind of brought to a spotlight what that end user experience needs to be, and what those how do I look at that end user experience and what is causing those problems? Because supporting a user who's sitting in your network on a hardwired connection, and supporting a user who's connecting from home for the first time on their home machine or on some device you sent them home with that you provisioned last night because you were in a hurry, are two different things. And so having that ability to see, the end-to-end pieces, what is affecting the user, how is it affecting the user, and where exactly is the problem coming in, is invaluable. For the customers to be able to provide that experience, they have to have tools like the monitoring tools like EG that can show them, where is my problem and how do I fix this problem? So.
Yeah, another great point there. It's not just about working from home versus working in the office either. It's working from anywhere, everywhere, and on any device. So really, there are so many challenges out there. And I'm curious, Rachel, from the conversations you're having with your customers, are there any trends in the kind of things that they're ringing you and asking you for your help with?
I think we're seeing a lot more focus on people wanting to automate their help desk. As I talked about, we have this machine learning and AI ops platform built in that does root cause analysis. So we automatically capture an awful lot of data about the real user logons. So we capture like the full GPO process and the timings of real users as they log on. So we can pick up on trends when services are starting to degrade before users experience issues. And of course, because we're doing that for every single user session, the admin can get a very good overview. They can see, is this problem regional? Is there a common Zen server amongst the users having problems? Is it perhaps that they're all connecting through a particular gateway? That kind of thing. And this is what admins are facing the challenges of having to do. Quite often you used to have a small number of Citrix users working remotely who'd learned to work remotely. And all of a sudden you've got a lot of users who haven't really chosen this route and are probably less tolerant of issues. They just get very, very frustrated and don't have the skills to do basic checks themselves. So help desks are getting a lot more almost false alarms. Perhaps it's people who've got a dodgy Wi-Fi router that they've put on a concrete floor in their basement. And so the end user help desks are having to deal with a huge volume and often of low quality calls. And so they need more tools to actually spot problems before they arrive so they don't get overwhelmed by ticket. But they also want those kind of automatic diagnosis and root cause analysis tools. They need to have the data that if they have an end user who says, look, Citrix is always slow when I log on. Sometimes those issues are intermittent and you can do an interactive session and you can't find anything. So you really do need to collect all that data by process. One of the things we offer is included in the base product is a full set of reporting and capacity planning tools. And help desk staff and IT are being increasingly asked about the value they're offering and how are we going to plan to have this work from home capacity ongoing. And so we offer IT staff a way of communicating what they're doing to the business as well.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the word value there. And the days of IT taking 18 months to deliver a new project are long gone. And it feels like there's a real appetite for exploring these new ways of working, retiring legacy technology, processes, even corporate culture, the mindset in the corporate culture as well. And also, Rachel, what are the biggest opportunities that you see on the road ahead for businesses as a result of this big change of mindset?
I think on the application side, we're seeing a lot, because we do application performance monitoring as well. It's been fascinating to see, especially our customers who offer things like retail and consumer financial products, that with everything that happened, various countries having lockdown, sometimes these people's businesses have essentially become a website or an app. And it's the performance of that it's literally been the only way they've been able to operate. Shops have been closed. Restaurants were only able to do takeout. And some companies thrived by having a very, very good business transaction stack. And we've all had it. If you get a flaky app and it crashes halfway through your order, you just delete the app and move on to the next restaurant's app. And so people are having to look at sometimes that perhaps IT is suddenly their core part of their business.
Absolutely. And I think they're increasingly being seen as business enablers rather than the blockers or that reputation that they might have had a few years ago. And Richard, what are the opportunities that you see on the road ahead for businesses?
I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things that the pandemic has brought to light is just how much that IT can enable the companies to transform their businesses. I mean, it forced a lot of companies to do that transformation in a very short period of time. But I think it's exciting to see the embracing of those technologies and the realization come to mind that there are so many things that we can change and do better to provide a better solution for our customers, for our end users, for our workers, and so forth. I often advise my customers when I'm talking to them that I don't care if you're a construction company or if you make widgets or whatever, if you don't consider yourself a high-tech company, that you may not be in business in 10 years. You've got to have that technology because technology has transformed so many different environments to new ways of doing business, new ways of working with their customers, that if you're not staying up with that and you're not willing to embrace the new way of doing business and the new way of enabling your employees, then you may not be around. So it can literally be a life or death situation for a business to know what kind of experience are they getting, how are my workers able to work, how are my customers able to interact with us. So I think it's exciting. I think we're going to see a lot of changes come about, and I think a lot of people are coming to realize that all of this business transformation wasn't just a keyword that everybody was saying, that there are literally ways that you can make your business better and be the next best at whatever it is that you're doing.
I think also it's not just opportunities on the road ahead for businesses, it's also threats. The whole pandemic has caused an entire ripple effects, but we've also seen how things like malware attacks have, if your IT is a key part of your business, the kind of partners you choose and how well they implement and your security really have to be top of your agenda. We have seen software. I mean, EGs are very, very well established. We're over 20 years old. Yeah. But we've seen a lot of consolidation with startups being bought. And so people have bought products that now have been bought by a competitor. And so people really have to think about, I think, looking at the companies they work with and how well they're doing. Are they accredited partners? Are they supported? Do they have a track record? What's their customer service like when they're choosing an IT supplier? And of course, what their security is like.
That's such a great point. Something I've never thought of there about working with a startup very closely, and that startup was then bought up by the competitor. That had completely missed me. And sorry, Richard, what were you going to say there?
I was just going to hop in and echo the security side of this. I can tell you that, like I said, at the beginning, Conversant Group is very heavy on security. Whatever it is we do it in a secure manner. But we also have we work with several different companies to help recover people who've been compromised. And I can tell you, in the last 6 months, we've almost had to double our staff because of the number of people who have been compromised because security was lax and because they did not take the efforts they needed to. So I could not echo enough how important it is to make sure that what you're doing is being done securely, and that you know that your security is in place.
And I did read a few years ago, there was a quote, and it was that the last great experience you have anywhere becomes the standard expectation for everywhere. And talking today about the workplace and the importance of that end user experience and being able to work anywhere and on any device is really building a new future of work. So I'm curious, to begin with, Rachel, what excites you about this new future of work that we're building?
I think one of the things that I'm very excited about is some of the work vendors like Microsoft are doing in the field of accessibility. The fact that Teams and PowerPoint now have built-in subtitles in multiple languages, which makes it a lot more accessible to not only non-native speakers, but people with hearing problems, or it can be very helpful in an education environment for homeschooling and children to interact with. And I think it's forced a lot of people who would possibly have been a bit marginalised. I mean, here in the UK, a lot of families who didn't have laptops got issued with laptops. Mm. And actually, I did some work with some educational charities, and the big fear was that children from less privileged backgrounds were going to have real problems, not just with IT hardware, but also just learning how to use these. These were households without a computer or someone computer literate in the house. And actually, kids are incredibly good at finding a way to access the internet. The schools I've worked with, it's been amazing. You know, families that they thought were going to find it challenging, actually, these kids just took to it like a duck to water. And so, and also, I think a lot of people have seen it with elderly relatives. I didn't think I'd seen my 91-year-old mother-in-law using FaceTime on an iPad, and she's perfectly happy. And I think that kind of thing has made people, and it's also made people think about, actually, I don't think people are so bothered about when work is done as long as it gets done. And so people are thinking, well, actually, is that 2 hours on a train really a good use of my time every single day?
I think there's a lot of people thinking that right now. And again, such an important point about bringing the next generation of technology along and supporting them and giving them the tools that they need. And also older people as well. I've got similar problems with my family. And there's a lot of people feeling they're almost being left behind by technology because nobody's investing time with them. And then wherever they go, they've got to, or they feel that they should know all about technology. And that can even be in a self-checkout in a supermarket, for example. So it is important that we bring everyone along for the ride. But Richard, is there anything in particular that excites you about the future of work?
I am very excited about, in much the way Rachel had talked about breaking down those barriers, when you've got the barriers to the different people and everything, and breaking down, just breaking down barriers to working the way you can best work and the way that enables our employees or our customers to best interact with us as a company. I think, seeing that enablement, just making it to where, I want to go see my son play a soccer game. I don't have to say, well, I can't take care of this because I can do whatever work I need to do later from my house just as well as I can do it sitting in the office at 2:00 in the afternoon. If I want to, be able to go spend some time with a sick relative, or I want to, spend some time, even in enabling, help out with the charitable contributions, or, go help the underprivileged and those kind of things. It enables that capability for people to be more human. I am concerned a bit about the interaction with other people. I can say that I have certainly missed going and visiting with my customers in person and shaking hands and so forth. But it was good to see that it is capable, we are capable to carry on, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think what we need to find is and I think we'll find a balance of when do we need to be in the office, when do we need to be in person with the customer, and when can we just work remotely and take care of the problems. Certainly in an emergent situation, having that remote capability is very vital to businesses today. But it does. I think it's exciting times, and largely because the a lot of companies have had to embrace that new way of doing things. A lot of companies were just, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to spend the money for this because I don't see the need for it. Now see the need and now are spending the money and are now enabling their employees to do what they do best. Getting that work done and getting it done when they can at the best time for them to do it.
I think it's also affected how people view vendors such as us, and we're getting a lot more questions about our physical presence in countries. We actually have 11 physical offices dotted around the world. We've got offices in Singapore, India, Australia. Our headquarters in the US is in New Jersey. We've got a UK office, German one in The Hague in the Netherlands. And when you've got countries like Australia that have literally, I think they're allowing 300 people in a day, their own citizens, it does become important to customers whether you've got local support, in between lockdowns who are able to go on site if necessary or speak your own language. It also means they've got more legal comeback in those countries. And people are actually starting to think more about, I do want a company that's got some kind of physical accountable presence, because I can't just fly someone in from the States at the moment. And I think also at EG, we've always had a hybrid approach to work. So having to move everyone home wasn't much of a challenge. But we're very committed to keeping those offices because some of our employees, they don't enjoy working at home, some of them, and some of them feel they have a better work-life balance if sometimes they can go into the office, get away from the kids, actually, and sit in an office with some real people and have customers come into the offices.
Yeah, if I could just kind of echo along there, Conversant Group was actually very early on adopting the concept of working from anywhere. In fact, a lot of our customers are, we're based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, but we have customers all over the United States. And we also have employees that are all over the United States. Probably 50% of our employees don't even live in Tennessee. They can live in, we've got employees in California, Connecticut, spread all about the country because that remote work is available and that capability is there. So I think we have a unique understanding in remote work because of that, because from our founding 12 years ago, we've allowed our employees to work from anywhere.
And it's been really useful to have people in different regions and countries, particularly, some countries have had very low COVID rates, so have had even physical events go ahead. We've had some events in Asia, and actually having staff there has meant they've carried on. And even in the US, different areas have been in a completely different situation at different times, I think, haven't they, Richard?
Yes, definitely they have. And, I could say, kind of jokingly, I have volunteered to run the Conversant office in Sao Paulo, Brazil, if they ever decide they wanted to open one up there.
I think it's so important that we recognise that there is no cookie approach or one size fits all. We all thrive in different scenarios and we might work better in different locations depending on what task we need to deliver. I feel we've covered so much in a short amount of time today, but for anyone that wants to continue the conversation that we started today and contact you yourselves or your team, Rachel, to begin with, what's the best starting point to find EG Innovations and stay up to speed with developments there?
I think just type EG Innovations into Google and have a look at our website. You'll also find on the main webpage there's a link to the blog where a lot of our employees post useful articles or overviews of our technology. That's quite a good read. And of course, you can find us all on Twitter and LinkedIn.
All the usual suspects. And Richard, where's the best place to find Conversant online?
So we are, the best place to find us is going to be at conversantgroup.com. We do have a website up there and everything. And of course, we're on LinkedIn and Twitter, as am I. You can find me at LinkedIn is Richard Faulkner, JR. And on Twitter, I'm at RJ Faulkner, JR.
Well, I think everything we've discussed today will resonate with people all over the world. It's the challenges that we're all having to face in workplaces everywhere right now in every industry. And for me, I've just loved hearing more about where does EG Innovations add value to Citrix customers, how it relates to Citrix built-in tools, and of course the great work that you guys are doing too, Richard, and how it all fits together and building that end-user experience that we all expect as standard now. But more than anything, just a big thank you to you both for taking the time to share that with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been great talking to you all.
Wow, I just really enjoyed today's conversation. And for me, it generally felt like we covered a lot of ground in a 40-minute conversation. And I particularly enjoyed talking about what changes today's guests have seen with regard to Citrix customers' needs and how they're working together. The biggest opportunities that they see on the road ahead for businesses, especially as the future of work continues to evolve in what feels like real time right now. So I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did, and I invite you all to share your stories, your questions, and anything you thought about today's episode. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just look for @NeilC.Hughes. Nice and easy to find. Remember, you are what makes this podcast special and why there is at least one episode going out 365 days of the year. So please keep your questions coming in. And also remember, if you need help launching your own podcast, you just want somebody else to worry about editing audio files and all that stuff, or need help ghostwriting articles for your business, you can learn more about how you can work with me at techblogwriter.co.uk. But more than anything, I just want to hear your insights, your struggles, how you're overcoming them. And if you want to come on the podcast, let me know too. But that's it for today's episode. So a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.